Right, here we go again. What's happening? Not sure what's happening. DAC 90, no, DAC 10.
Talking about direct.
There we are. That's one I did 9 months ago, apparently. Just started a loud hum. There's the output valve, audio output valve. Wrecked itself. Barker, look. Barker 88. Rather nice. Cabinet's not too bad. Had a vase of flowers there by the look of it. Speaker grill cloth. I've emailed the chap with an estimate. The grill cloth needs replacing. I'm not sure I've got anything suitable, but we will see. Right, who have we got here? David from Cardiff. Hello, welcome to you. And Mac from Northamptonshire. Welcome to you. Welcome aboard. Hope you both enjoy the videos. I've actually got 10 radios in at the moment. 10, would you believe? But as I said last week, this week I'm going to dedicate this video to Bletchley Park. That's where I went to the weekend. Where are we? Yeah, the other day. Weekend just gone. And absolutely amazing. I've been promising myself to get there at some stage for years now. And I actually did it. Went to Bletchley Park, stayed 3 nights, had 2 whole days at Bletchley Park. So you do need that if you're going to go there. It's no good thinking, oh, we'll go there for a couple of hours. As I said, 2 whole days I spent there, and I think I saw everything. Quite interesting. I've got loads of video clips, well, loads of photographs and a few video clips. So that's what this week's video is all about. First of all, I was made very welcome at the RSGB National Radio Centre. It's all run by the RSGB. A really nice place. Made very welcome by a couple of the lads there. I sat down, had a look at all the gear. They've obviously got some of the latest stuff. I'll show you their aerials in a minute. But really fantastic place. And they were on the air when I was there. I think they were working through satellites. This where you can work through amateur radio satellites on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. But that's just a quick look at the RSGB station because I want to move on to Bletchley. Just before we leave the RSGB National Radio Centre, there's their aerials. There's that huge beam you probably can't see. There's dipoles as well up there, and 2 meters and 70 sems satellite aerials that are steerable in all directions, which is pretty good. So that's their aerials up there. Right, now let's get on to Bletchley itself. There's me standing by the lake. Lovely grounds, absolutely lovely grounds. You might find that some of the photos are repeated. Sorry about that if that happens, but I've got so many that I might put one on that I've already put on, but there we are. So that's the lake, and there's the house itself. Couple of shots of the house. I think it's called a mansion. Most people there were calling it the mansion, so there it is. It's a lovely building. And it's wonderful to think that all this secret stuff was going on there. It's just imagining people walking in and out of that very building, thinking about codes and all this sort of stuff, the Enigma, the Colossus machine. There's inside. What I like about, I don't know whether you can see in the photos, what I like about some of these inside settings that they've done, where the young women would come in, sit down at their desks, they put their handbag on the floor just by their chair, which is what they would have done, isn't it? Take their coat off, hang that up, sit at the desk, put the handbag on the floor. You don't want it on the desk in the way. And look at these pictures. It's absolutely fantastic the way it's all been done. It really is original, which is amazing. Going back outside again, there are a lot of buildings, like as you can see here, that have just been left derelict. I don't know why, whether they're going to be restored in the future or whether they're nothing of interest. It might have been storage, because I forget how many people worked there, but there was hundreds, weren't there, that worked at Bletchley Park. So you can imagine the supplies, just things like soap, washing, toilet rolls or toilet paper as they had in those days. I mean, imagine the supplies they would need for hundreds of people, the food, presumably they cooked on site. I must admit, although I'm talking about Bletchley Park, I still don't know a great deal about it. There's so much history to it and so much that went on there. It's difficult to take it all in a 2-day weekend. We got there on Saturday, spent the whole of Sunday at Bletchley Park, went back on Monday, If you're going, by the way, Sunday was very, very busy. There were even coach loads of people turning up, coach parties, just showing you these old buildings here as I talk. On the Monday, it was completely quiet. There was one little group of school children, but apart from that, the place was empty. So if you're going to go, go in a weekday. But yes, so I suppose these buildings, there are notices saying danger, asbestos, unsafe roof, that sort of thing. I don't know what they'll do. They probably don't like to pull them down because it's history. On the other hand, what can you do with them? Sorry to spend so long on pictures of derelict buildings, but I thought you would rather see photos, just any old photos of Bletchley, rather see that than see me sitting in the workshop. So let's move on to something more interesting now. It really is difficult to know where to start because I've got hundreds of photos. Let's start with the Colossus computer. Now look at the valves in this. It's the valves that I wanted to show you. There are hundreds. Now when you bear in mind that these valves are 6.3 volt heaters at probably 300 milliamps. So, well, you can work that out. I don't know, 300 milliamps multiplied by hundreds of valves, that is a lot of current. You're talking over 100 amps, just heater current alone. And in one of these video clips, there's the heater transformers there supplying all this 6.3 volts, all this massive current. I'll just stop talking for a minute and let you enjoy the sound of the machinery. There are two of what I can only think are the 6.3 volt transformers, two heavy current transformers there, and in the video where I don't know whether you saw the two heavy red wires going up the side of the rack, that from what I could see was the 6.3 volt tremendous current kind of cable, and then the valve heaters are taken off that. So let's have a look inside these huts. This is the outside of a hut. There were lots of huts where they were mainly offices from what I could see. So these are some of the shots of inside the huts, and they are exactly, as you can see, exactly as they would have been. I don't think anything, I don't know whether things are actually moved and then put back and all set up, or whether these desks and chairs that you can see were actually just left there since the 1940s, 1950s. So I don't know. But it's amazing to be in there, to walk in and out of, there are loads of these offices. Obviously I haven't taken photos of the whole lot. It's amazing to walk into these offices and actually to sit down at one of the desks, as I'm doing here, pretending to be on the phone to the War Office. But to sit there and just think that this is where they sat. This is it, the highly secretive place that I'm sitting in there. I'm there at the very desk, on the very chair, on the very telephone. It's just fantastic if you're into that sort of thing, which obviously I am. You've probably gathered that by now. Now this is a mock setup of receivers. Okay, this is where people would have sat down, girls would have sat down. They've learnt Morse code, right, and they are receiving messages from the enemy, obviously coded, encrypted, so they're just like blocks of letters. In fact, there's a piece of paper I don't know whether you can see that very clearly. This is an original where someone has written down the time, the frequency they were listening on, and the groups of letters. That was it. That was the code. These weren't German messages, in German text, in German language. They were just groups of letters. This is what they say about Morse code. This is why I love Morse code, as you know. It has no language barriers. I've started writing down, I've heard someone calling CQ on one of the shortwave amateur bands, and I'm writing down, I think, oh, I'm writing in French, or I'm writing in German, or whatever language. I can write it down correctly, and then someone that perhaps can read German will say, oh yes, read it out to me, that's what it says. And same with sending, I can send in any language because it's only letters. So what amazed me, I'm just putting a few pictures on while I talk, it's just random pictures of the whole place because there's so much interesting stuff there. What amazed me was I'm looking round outside, where are the aerials? There's all these women apparently with all these receivers and their headphones, and they're all writing down, receiving this Morse code, writing down the groups of letters. There were no aerials, and then I thought, well, hang on a minute, there aren't going to be aerials everywhere because that's a little bit of a giveaway, isn't it? Huge towers and masts and wires everywhere. I mean, any German reconnaissance plane coming across is going to think, hello, that's worth bombing to bits. So I then discovered, by, as I say, read the instructions first, I then discovered that on one of the plaques on the wall, it said about Y stations, WI stations. Wireless interceptors. They had naval, army, and the most interesting, radio amateurs. They made radios. They employed some, well, I say employed, I suppose they paid them, some radio amateurs, got them to sign the Official Secrets Act, and the amateurs were sitting at home writing down, listening to the Morse, writing down the German messages. And then on these bits of paper, as I showed you here, look, writing down all the messages. They were then taken by a sort of dispatch rider on a motorbike to Bletchley Park, where they were decoded by the machinery. I'm going to show you, well, there's some of the machinery. Let's move on to that. There's some of the machinery now. And I suppose what it was, they weren't allowed, these radio amateurs, I just imagine me sitting in what I call my radio room, and I'm listening to Morse code, I'm writing stuff down. My wife would think, oh, he's listening to Morse code again, oh, here we are, sending Morse code again, or whatever, to his nerd friends. She wouldn't have known that I'm actually receiving encrypted German messages and sending them onto Bletchley Park. No one would know, your family wouldn't know. So that really is all fascinating stuff. But obviously they didn't do the receiving at Bletchley Park because, as I say, all the huge aerials would have been a little bit of a giveaway. Now this is in a display cabinet. It's a mock-up of the kind of what is it, the bomb they called it, didn't they? The bomb, the boom. First of all, the front of it. I'm not going to talk all over it. First of all, the front of it, and then round the back, you can see the actual workings going on in the back. I think we'll end with a picture of Alan Turing's desk. There it is, the very desk and chair in his office where he would have sat down for many hours working things out on bits of paper, racking his brain. Brilliant mathematician, obviously. I won't go into Alan Turing and all that he did because it's knowledge, isn't it? It's on the internet. There's even been that film with what's his name, that Cucumber Patch chap. That's not his name, is it? Cucumber Patch. He did very well in that when he played the part of Alan Turing. He did very well. But I just thought we'd end with the desk. I've got hundreds more photographs. There's all the computing centre. There's so much more to show. But I don't want to make this video too long. It's already over a quarter of an hour long, so I won't bore you all to bits with that. Next week in the video we'll be back to vintage valve radios. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye for now.